Thank you very much. Members to the team and existing members that have served our community for the past couple of years, I'd like us to take an opportunity and just go around the room and introduce ourselves and how we serve, whether we're a parent, a community member, a feeder, or if you are a representative from our district. Thank you. We around the mic to do this, okay? So thank you.
I get to go first, yay. My name is Matt Blakelock. I'm Chief of Police for Conroe ISD Police Department. Been here 26 years now and been on the SHAC for the last few years, so happy to be here.
My name is Carrie Bigford, and I am a parent of 3 CISD students. Happy to be here.
My name is Brent Maddox. I'm a parent in the Woodlands Feeder Zone. I have 4 sons. One's on the 9th grade campus, and the other 3 are going to be coming into Conroe ISD shortly. They're too young.
Hi, I'm Amber Dunnigan. I am a parent of children in the Conroe Feeder Zone.
Hi, I'm Melanie Bujnak. I'm the headmaster of the Academy for Science and Health Professions at Conroe High School.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Blackman. I have 2 high schoolers in the College Park Feeder Zone.
Hi, I'm Sabrina Yamani, and I'm a parent. I have 3 daughters in the Woodlands Feeder Schools.
Hi, I'm Dana Fisher. I'm a health services specialist, but I also have children in Conroe ISD. I've had 3 that graduated and 1 still in the Grand Oaks Feeder Zone.
Hi, I'm Mila Cobbler. I am the school nurse at Patterson Elementary. Been here for almost 20 years as a district employee, also a parent. I've got 3 kiddos, 2 that have graduated Conroe High School and 1 that is currently a freshman at the freshman campus.
Hi, I'm Bridget Hodge. I'm a PE teacher, sorry. I teach at Sally K. Ride Elementary School. I'm the PE facilitator for Conroe ISD, and I'm also a parent of 2 Conroe ISD students.
Hello, I'm Wade Haymark. I'm the coordinator for PE and Health.
Dina Graves, I'm the athletic specialist, and I've been in the district for 30 years and have 3 graduates of CISD.
Hi, I'm Samira Zedi. I'm been a SHAC member, I think 3-4 years. 2 in Woodlands High, 1 in McCullough, and I'm also a substitute.
Quentin Dulworth, I'm the principal of Kaufman Elementary and father of 3 CIC girls.
Laura Broski, and I have a son at McCullough, the Woodlands.
Hi, April Taylor, Woodlands Feeder. I have 2 in CISD, 1 7th grader, and then a senior.
Hi, I'm April Kersey. I have 2 kiddos in College Park Feeder Zone.
I'm Lindsay Taylor, the mental health specialist in the guidance and counseling department. I have 2 kids, 7th and 5th grade in the Conroe Feeder.
I'm Becky Fralix, and I'm a parent. College Park Feeder. I have 1 sophomore at College Park and 2 graduates of College Park.
I'm Sam Torek. I've got 3 girls in the Grand Oaks Feeder Zone, 2 at York and 1 at Snyder.
Hi, I'm Amber Bentley. I'm currently serving as counselor at Clark Intermediate. I have 2 graduates from CP, and I also served as a teacher in both the Woodlands and the College Park Feeder Zones.
Hi, I'm Dr. Bryce Spear. I'm a mom of 5 children in the district, ranging from elementary all the way up to high school. I have kids in every campus age that we possibly have in this district. So, yeah, and I was a SHAC chair for 22-23. So, thank you for being here.
I'm Christy Casisio. I have taught math in the Oak Ridge and Grand Oaks feeder zone for 15 years, and I am a future parent, my baby's little, of the Grand Oaks feeder zone as well.
I'm Tony LaBelle. I've got 6 children, 4 of which have graduated Conroe High, 1 still in Conroe High, and 1 will be in a couple of years. And I got 2 grandkids starting in CISD.
I'm Elizabeth Morrison. I've got 2 kids. 1 already graduated Oak Ridge, and then the next one's in Irons waiting to go in.
Jesse Frazier. My daughter just graduated last year and is now off at college. And so I'm here as a community member, and I just want to be a part of a district that I feel like has served her really well. And I just want to give back because I think what's going on here is pretty great.
Hello, I'm Garrett Costello. I have 3 kids in Conroe ISD. It's my 2nd year on SHAC, and I'm looking forward to this year.
Hi, my name is April Heron. I have 3 children in the Grand Oaks feeder zone. I have a kindergartner, a 5th grader, and a 6th grader.
Hi, my name is Cassandra Crow. I am serving as a community member for the first time. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Catherine Fletcher. I'm a Conroe High School feeder parent, and I have 2 kindergartners, twins.
Hello, I'm Mark Merle. I'm the principal at College Park High School. This is my 30th year in the district, and I have 3 wonderful boys that graduated from Conroe ISD as well.
Hi, I'm Paula Kopesky, principal at Mitchell Intermediate, and this is my 39th year in the profession. And this may be the only committee in the district I've never served on, because this is my first time to be on SHAC. And we always argue over who has more years of experience. Margaret, yeah.
I do apologize, I did not mention, this is my 27th year in Conroe ISD, and I have twin boys across the street, Jake and Josh. They're juniors at Conroe High. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Spear. She's going to talk a little bit about our SHAC overview and the duties of the SHAC, or what the SHAC does in our school district. And I did want to mention on the mic, we just press down, and when it's green, then we can talk into it, and we should be good to go.
Yay. Thank you all for being here tonight. I know we all have things that we do with our children, and so I know your time is precious, so thank you. I'll just start there. One of the things that I was asked to do is to talk with you guys about the SHAC. And so well, I'm just going to start here. My clicker works. Where am I pointing this item? Over here?
Dr. Spear, while you're loading up, I just wanted to recognize one of our board members in the room, Mrs. Misty Odenweller. Thank you so much for being a guest with us today.
I'm trying to hide. There we go. Welcome. Okay. So what is the SHAC? So the SHAC is the School Health Advisory Council established by the state of Texas. It's a legislatively mandated council to make sure that community values are reflected in the district's health education instruction. So this is, you'll see this reference a lot, Texas Education Code 28.004, and it's a really long document. I sincerely encourage you to read it because just the high points we're going to go over right now are really the tip of the iceberg for all of the work that the SHAC is responsible for doing, and helps give us some framework of where we're headed. The other requirement of the SHAC is that the school district must consider the recommendations of the School Health Advisory Council before changing the district's health education curriculum or instruction. And so the weight of what the SHAC does is really important to make sure that the community values and the recommendations are put forth in a manner that can be cohesive, but also are received well, and that we're working together as a group. The SHAC governing documents that we rely on are, like I mentioned, the Texas Education Code. There's also a manual put out by the Texas Department of State Health Services. That's the SHAC Council, a guide for Texas school districts. I would encourage you to read it. And then we have our SHAC bylaws. Those were amended last year based off of the prior SHACs, and so that's the governing document for how we do our operations here right now. So what does the SHAC do? I will not read all of these slides direct and verbatim, but just the highlighting points, the number of hours of instruction in health education through all grades, policies, procedures, strategies, curriculum that's appropriate, and then all of those items A through I are just kind of a highlight of what we touch on and what we're responsible for doing. So it is quite a bit, health education, nutrition, parental involvement, what does that look like, responsibility, mental health services, school health services, employee wellness, safe and healthy school environments. We are also responsible for figuring out appropriate grade levels and methods of instruction for human sexuality instruction. Again, making policy recommendations to the district concerning the importance of daily recess, strategies for integrating curriculum components. So it's not just putting forth the recommendation, it's also, this is the recommendation, and we think this partnership might work best if we do, whatever. So it's very broad and very deep, and it's a lot of things that we are asked to do. Strategies to increase parental awareness. Appropriate grade levels for instruction, and these are all pulled out of the Texas Education Code. And then one of the most recent things that the SHAC was tasked for is appropriate grade levels in curriculum instruction for child abuse, family violence, dating violence, and sex trafficking. So that's some legislative changes that have happened over the last few years in the state of Texas, where our state is taking this topic very seriously to make sure that our students are well educated and aware to be able to protect themselves and protect others. Okay, so on that, our next agenda item is considering the approval of the minutes. So for everyone, the minutes are posted on the website, usually within 10 days of our meetings. So you should be able to access all the content you need for the meeting on the SHAC website. I know that not everybody was here at the last SHAC meetings. There were so many bright new faces, but at this time, if someone would like to make a motion for approval of the minutes.
Make a motion for approval of the minutes.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Great. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. Any opposed? Because I have the members, but I don't know everybody's names yet. Okay, great. So that motion passes. And then our next topic or agenda item is the community feedback item. We have Dr. Harris here. So the SHAC has a community email address that can be found on the Conroe ISD website. And this is a way for the community to reach out to us with concerns that they have that pertain to the topics we deal with and we work on within the SHAC. And so if a person sends an email and expresses a concern, they are always invited to come and talk to the SHAC about what their concern is. And so Dr. Harris had emailed, and so I'm going to invite him at this time to come forward and share his SHAC concern.
Thank you, Dr. Spear. My name is Alex Harris, and I have certain burdens on my heart. As Dr. Spear just said, this whole SHAC committee is founded on Texas Education Code 28004. And if you read 28004, the stress is that what we teach, what we do in our community is to teach them abstinence from sexual activity. It's stressed. There are exceptions, and you teach them also. But the primary objective of 28004 is to teach them abstinence as minors. What they do beyond that, that's up to them. And my concern is every one of you should know what the national sex education standard is. And if you don't, please, I want to send out a little handout that I'll mail it to Dr. Spear and Dr. Upshaw, and I hope she'll share it with all of you. Because what this teaches is this standard, there is a force at work to sexualize our children. And we need to be aware, because everything that we see, the books that come in, everything that's happening around us, when we understand what National Sex Education Standard is, it'll align. And here's a little highlight from that. By 5th grade, they want to ensure our children understand what hormone blockers are. They want to ensure by 5th grade. And they want to start as early as possible. this whole gender confusion. And that's not the role of Conroe ISD. I respect individual parents, what they feel, what they want to do. But this is a public school, and there's no room for that. That is not the role of Conroe ISD. And by 10th grade, they should be able to differentiate between sex assigned at birth, gender identity, and gender expression. And it goes on to sexual orientation, sexual behavior, and sexual identity. National Sex Education Standard violates 28004. And my appeal to you today is to have a report, to have these books that indoctrinate our children with NSCS according to its standard be removed, because that's not the place here. If a parent feels, hey, this is what I should be doing, we have the public libraries, there are other places they can do that. And I'm not trying to judge anyone, because each one, we have the freedom to choose. But as a public school, there's no room for that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. We had two other individuals that had emailed. I don't know if they're here. Oh, I don't see. Okay. So they're not here, but maybe they'll be able to come to a different meeting. All right. Yes. We used to have a Contact SHAC button on the SHAC website, and I'm not sure what happened to it, but it's no longer there. So if we can kindly add that back, that would be great. I think it's important that parents have the opportunity to contact us directly from the SHAC website.
To email us off the website?
Yeah, it used to be there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like a button, like all the other buttons. We have like bylaws, membership process, contact SHAC. It was like a big orange or green button. And so I'm not sure why that was taken off, but if we can add that back in, that would be good. Thank you. Thank you. All right, next up on the agenda, receiving the SHAC committee updates and the sign-up information for you to volunteer and help us this year. So when we talk about the subcommittees, we have, well, we're up to 6 total. The one that is not up here, because there's not really an update right now for it, is bylaws. But we'll talk about when you have the opportunity to sign up for subcommittees later. That will be listed as an option too. Okay, moving right along. For compliance, I'm going to pass over to Ms. Kersey for these updates. Okay. So compliance, for the slides I made for today, as the 3 documents that Bryce referenced, the governing documents, I tried to go for any subcommittee that I helped lead. I tried to go back and look at what are these 3 governing documents give us guidance for this specific subcommittee. So for compliance, I think the assumption is in Texas Education Code and in the SHAC guide from DSHS that you comply. So there's not a lot listed about compliance there. So there was nothing there. Within our SHAC bylaws, we do have language that says that compliance is a standing subcommittee and that we are expected to just make sure that as a SHAC, we're complying with, of course, our own bylaws, applicable federal and state legislation, which points back to Texas Education Code, and then also CISD policies. And then if there's any recommendations or concerns, that we present that to full SHAC for consideration. We also have a compliance chair that will be selected once the subcommittee's formed, and Bryce will tell us about how that's going to happen later in the meeting. So as far as compliance subcommittee, for those of you guys that were on the committee last year, you'll remember we created a compliance tracker to help us with Texas Education Code requirements and to make sure we meet those and try to just break it down. Okay, here's the requirement, how are we complying, and where do we stand? And so examples are the same things as what Bryce had mentioned, opioid addiction and abuse, strategies regarding suicide and health concerns, hours of instruction for health education, and then recess and physical activity and fitness. And so those are just examples. There's lots of different ones. So these will be some topics that we'll be hearing about coming forth in the future meetings. But as far as compliance,
There's lots of things, of course, that we haven't been in compliance with yet because this is our first meeting. So, those things will be forthcoming. And certainly, if you're interested in being on the compliance subcommittee, you're welcome to join. So if we move to the next slide. So in looking at the tracker, one of the things I noticed is Texas Education Code actually has a section that's set to expire next year. So I wanted to draw our attention to it. And I'll just read it. It's section I-2. And it says, before a student may be provided with human sexuality instruction, a school district must obtain the written consent of the student's parent. A request for a written consent under this subsection 1 may not be included with any other notification or request for written consent provided to the parent, and 2 must be provided to the parent not later than the 14th day before the date on which the human sexuality instruction begins. And then you'll notice in section I-3 it says I-2, which is the preceding points that I just read, will expire August 1st of 2024. And so in talking with Dr. Upshaw about this last year, and in our SHAC, if you guys that were here last year will recall, we went and created the opt-in forms. Those were SHAC approved. Those are the forms that went out to every parent that had a child in Health 1, which is typically 8th graders, but can also be high schoolers. And so before they were given that instruction, that form, a paper copy, went home. It was filled out if you wanted your child to opt into the instruction, and then was brought back to school. And so that process has been rolled out across all of CISD. According, when we talked about it, Dr. Upshaw, you had said it was working well, the paper copies are going fine, you're getting them back. And so, my thought here is that continuing this process places no additional burden on parents, district, students, anybody. So my thought here is that given I-2 is going to expire next year, and it's unclear if that will be amended or extended or what will happen to this section, I would like to see SHAC recommend to the board that we make this, this process that we're already following part of our policy, so that whether Texas Education Code is amended or not in the future or next year, that we have a policy in place, we continue doing it, it's working well, and it gives parents the opportunity to opt in as opposed to the default being opt out for sex ed training. So any questions about that? I know that was a mouthful. Any questions about this subsection or what? Or any discussion?
They won't be able to hear you on the web, though. On our live recording, that's how we have to pass the mic. Thank you so much.
Not so much necessarily about this subcommittee, but I'm wondering kind of the crossover on the mental health part with compliance. Is this just about how the district complies with what the mental health recommends and is policy and all that? Or is this kind of, what's that overlap?
That's a great question. So our compliance committee doesn't really do any of the items. We make sure that other groups are doing them, which is the same group of people doing them, right? So, but it's, as far as the compliance, it's really to track and help us understand, are we in compliant with all the different requirements in Texas Education Code? Dr. Upshaw and I put together an Excel spreadsheet. We can certainly share it if you guys are interested in seeing it. But as we go through the school year, we try to update it and just see, okay, where are the areas we need to have, what are the topics we need to address in future meetings, things like that. But as far as who's doing, for example, opioids, that's not really necessarily the compliance subcommittee, but it'll be flagged for SHAC leadership or a specific separate committee where it makes sense to address that topic. But that's a good question.
So Ms. Kersey's being very humble. The compliance committee is a very small group of 2 or 3. So if you're the type of individuals that like to check the box and fit process and procedures in a box and know what's next on our agenda, that's kind of like the thing that we do. So that is that particular task that we enjoy. So one thing just to consider about the last item, Ms. Kersey, is that the recommendation to keep those letters in place, it doesn't necessarily need to be a policy. It can be an administrative process. So in other words, if the SHAC is in agreement to keep those forms, it just becomes the way that we handle the letters. Because before it used to be an opt-out, correct, Mr. Haymark? And now what we changed last year is an opt-in. So we're still good to go for this next school year. We could bring the forms back so that everybody here or we can just say, hey, go look at them online because that's where they're available, and then we could make that an action item. As a SHAC, we have the ability to do that through an administrative process. So that's just something I wanted to just add to the group so that you know it doesn't necessarily take a board vote to implement a process like a letter of parent permission, just to offer.
No, that's definitely a fair comment. I think just my initial reaction is then I guess as a SHAC, we won't have had a voice in that as that comes to fruition. If Texas Education Code isn't amended and next summer you guys are like, wow, we aren't required to do this anymore, then there'll be a decision made next summer. And so as a SHAC, I just think this is an opportunity. If this is something we think is worthwhile to continue, to at least voice it to the board so that they know where we stand. Whether they choose to put in a policy or go the route that you suggested, that can certainly be left up to them to decide. But I think as far as making a recommendation, if we think this is the process we like and would like to see continued, since it is with regard to human sexuality, and that's a big part of what we're tasked with, giving recommendations on, I think it fits. So I would like to make a motion that we recommend to the board to make this, to consider making this a policy, the existing process a policy. All in favor, please raise your hand. Oh. The process is in place for this year, correct? And this will not expire till next year. So the expectation is for this school year, for the fall semester as well as spring semester, these forms will be utilized and the process will be followed. That's correct. I think the reason I brought it up now is that August seems so far away. However, even if this does go, for example, if we present it to the board, that wouldn't happen for a couple board meetings, and then the board, in order to make something a policy, it takes a couple board meetings. So very quickly, we're into next summer. So that was the reason I didn't want to wait till our next meeting in January, because then we're kind of behind the 8 ball.
There's one motion on the table. I don't think you can have two motions. So we could have discussion on your motion.
Okay.
But to have another motion, we have to
That's fair.
entertain that motion first.
Do we vote? Okay.
Yeah, I just think I don't know how many, but there's several new committee members, and I think that's maybe there's probably another subcommittee that discusses human sexuality or something like that we haven't gotten to yet. And since we have a lot of time, perhaps we should consider tabling this motion until another meeting in the future, just so that some of us can read up on it a little bit more and get more educated on the whole process.
My concern is just I don't think we have as much time as it seems, given how long it takes for things to work through. If the board does decide to go the route of a policy, that's months and months down the road. So it will easily be spring, summer before they could put something in place. But understand your point. I think that's fair.
Well, we could always do the same vote that you just brought up at the next meeting or the next meeting,
In January.
Right.
That's what I was saying. So that's months down the road. So that's my only concern is the timeline.
Can we hand him the mic, please?
This appears to be a pretty straightforward motion, which is, hey, we already have a policy in place. Let's continue to kind of do this thing. And it seems like it's been working. Somebody that's not been here, though, maybe somebody could tell me why we would not want to do that if it's something that has been working. I mean, what are the ramifications? Maybe something I don't see. Is there something as far as this human sexuality instruction that maybe people dislike, or that gives us time to discuss how that's administered? I mean, as somebody that's not been here, I don't know what I would be missing by voting to go ahead and move forward. But on face value, it seems like it's what we've been doing, and it works.
I have a comment on that. Just like playing devil's advocate, to think of both sides of any situation, which is like how I like to approach things. Because I like to opt in for my children, but I think this is a representative group of parents who are very involved, and we should acknowledge that there are a lot of children who don't have that parental involvement. So if they have to have a piece of paper to obtain some education, they're, likely not going to get it. And so I'm not saying that this should be changed. I'm just saying that we should acknowledge that it does affect a group of students who, at some grade levels wouldn't get the same education because they didn't have that paper to present.
So we talked about that as well, because Dr. Upshaw and I talked about that as well, the fact that are you getting these forms back? Because sometimes things go home and they don't come back. And in our discussion, she had said the process was working very well and they're getting the forms. So you want to speak to that?
Actually, I can have Mr. Haymark speak over that because you have actual stats, right, on how many forms we received back. And
I don't have the stats form. I do know the numbers. Last year, at the Health One course,
Yes,
enrolled for, grades 8 through 12. We had over 5,000 students opt in to the instruction last year. So over 5,000 students. That's a 98%. Yes, ma'am.
And that's actually before the process was opting out. And so that's why Ms. Kersey is saying it's been successful, because out of 5,000 students, the form went and came back at a 97%. That's great stats. And it's, yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And I think to your question, my understanding, because I've had kiddos that were before this one in as well as after this one in go through, and my understanding is that if this expires and no action's taken and we go back to the old way, you have to opt your child out. So the default, to me it's the default, right? The default now is that your child is not given instruction unless the school receives your consent via that form. If this goes away and expires, then it becomes opt out, and the default is that they give the instruction unless they receive a form for you. So to me, that's the big distinguishing factor, is whether the default is if you don't want to get a form, you get the instruction, or you don't get the instruction if you don't have a form.
I was just curious, since you guys have had a chance to talk about this for quite a bit, was there any, or were there any objections? Was there any pushback from doing it this way? Did you hear from any parents or concerned citizens, or was there anything that might have been a reason not to go ahead with it in the opt-in versus the opt-out?
As a district administrative office, we didn't. Any of our principals in the room that have intermediate or high school, do you want to comment on that, on how that went in your building? Because we didn't hear any feedback, whether it was positive or negative. Yeah. Okay, yeah, go ahead, please.
So my daughter actually received that form last year, and as a parent, I really enjoyed the opportunity to opt in. As a parent, I preferred to have the default be no instruction if I didn't grant express permission, but that's just my experience as a parent for last year. I did receive that form and was quite happy with it.
I have a comment just to clarify for everybody. This is just a recommendation to the school board. This is not saying this is policy. So all this vote is to recommend to the school board, and the school board will ultimately make the decision.
It'd be really nifty if we just had a way to track it, right, electronically. No, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, so on the compliance tracker, I'm happy to share it with everyone. Yeah, we shared it last year, so I'm happy to share it. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
The campuses have those on file. We don't keep them on file at the district. Each campus has their own set. So and that's been the most difficult thing is, I mean, the opt-in's been working, but it's very difficult to maintain, to track those. But the campuses do have those on file.
Done.
All right, so I'm going to hand over to Lindsay Taylor. She's one of our mental health specialists, and so she's going to talk to us for a minute about the new Texas legislation passing.
So I'm going to kind of piggyback off what Dr. Spear shared with just the SHAC duties and responsibilities. So just kind of a summary from TEA and the new legislative updates. House Bill 3908, otherwise could be referred to Tucker's Law, adds recommendations regarding curriculum and instruction about the dangers of opioids. The local school health advisory council is required to include addiction to and abuse of synthetic opioids, such as fentanyl, to recommendations a council is required to make for appropriate grade levels and curriculum instruction. So just wanted to share kind of what the SHAC's responsibilities are in regards to the Tucker's Law that was passed.
Okay, this is my last subcommittee. So similar format to the last slides. There's quite a bit that the three governing documents have to say about membership. From Texas Education Code, I won't read this verbatim, but basically the board appoints at least 5 members to the SHAC. Majority must be parents who don't have kiddos in the district or who are not employed by the district, sorry. The trustees can appoint, and then other groups and folks to the SHAC, and it lists 11 different categories: teachers, admin, local domestic violence programs, and so forth. Within Texas DSHS, it talks about establishing bylaws that specifically define out your composition of SHAC, membership criteria, number of members, selection method, membership period, attendance and voting rights, as well as termination, resignation. It also talks about explaining the role of non-voting members, and then talks about often a school board member as part of SHAC. And so last year when we updated our bylaws, this was something that we spent a good bit of time defining out what is our membership looking like in order to meet Texas DSHS. And then by extension, our SHAC bylaws, we have a subcommittee to address membership, and annually our expectation is that we recommend and establish the requirements for membership. And we just finished up the membership process for last year. That was presented at the September board meeting. And the formal membership process for the next SHAC year will kick off in the spring. And certainly anybody that's interested in being on the membership subcommittee, Dr. Spear will explain later how that's, you guys will certainly have the opportunity to sign up, and we welcome all the help that we can get. I do want to take time, so after the September board meeting where membership was discussed, several of you and some folks from the community reached out to me and basically were like, what the heck happened? And so in that meeting. And so I'd like to spend a few minutes to explain the membership timeline, as well as address some of the comments that were made in the meeting, because I didn't have an opportunity to do so in the board meeting itself. And hopefully, when we're done here, the facts are clearer, and you guys can draw your own conclusions, and we can move forward as a SHAC. I also think it's important to note that anyone who watched or attended SHAC meetings last year knows that they were professional and respectful, and the SHAC worked with an incredible level of transparency and integrity. And I'm very proud to have been a part of it. So it was very shocking in the September board meeting to hear some of the comments that were made with regard to SHAC and SHAC leadership. And so I'll be addressing those in a little bit as well. So at the November SHAC meeting, subcommittees were created similar to what we're going to do after this meeting, including membership, and all SHAC members had the opportunity to join. prior SHACs had an application and selection process. It was just never documented, and so it was unclear what that process was. And so the membership subcommittee took the existing application and created, in order to increase transparency, created a membership recruitment and application process. It's a long title, but it's only a couple paragraphs. And so in our February meeting, that was presented to SHAC and was unanimously approved by all SHAC members. Then we went to set off to follow the process that had been approved by SHAC. So in May, Dr. Upshaw and her team posted flyers on the bulletin boards in our campuses as well as on CISD social media to advertise the SHAC application window. Similarly, per process, beginning in July, the membership subcommittee reviewed the applications that we received, and we finalized the membership recommendation. And we recommended every district applicant, including Dr. Upshaw, who applied. So in late August, Dr. Upshaw requested to Dr. Spear and I to add 12 additional district resources to the membership recommendation. We told her we don't have the unilateral authority to do that, to modify a recommendation. And I think it's important to understand in the SHAC in the school board meeting, it was implied that we did not want district representation on SHAC, and that's never been said, and that couldn't be further from the truth. The concern was never having additional 12 resources. The concern was we had agreed upon a process. You were present during the process, Dr. Upshaw. Lots of other district folks were present. You approved, everyone approved it. This was nothing new. There was nothing surprising, and that hadn't been revealed during the SHAC, in every SHAC meeting. And so the issue was never with the folks being added. It was the process wasn't followed, and that parents shouldn't be held to a different standard than the district. So in September, Dr. Spear formally submitted the SHAC recommendation to Dr. Upshaw for inclusion in the board book. Dr. Upshaw altered the recommendation without consent and removed facts, changed the tone to imply that we didn't want district personnel on SHAC, and again, that's not correct. And also added the 12 members. Dr. Upshaw and I spoke in person as well as via email, and I had asked her to please not submit her revised version to the board, and you were unwilling. And so as far as I know, the board never received the original SHAC recommendation. They received your rewritten version. At the September board meeting, Dr. Upshaw told the board that they had received a recommendation from SHAC as well as the district. And as I pointed out before, that's not correct. The original SHAC recommendation was never provided to the board. Texas Education Code states that SHAC recommendations are to be made to the board, very clearly. And Dr. Upshaw's actions to prevent a SHAC recommendation from reaching the board goes against Texas Education Code. And that was very disappointing. There was some other misinformation shared in the board meeting, 3 different points that I would like to clarify. Dr. Upshaw stated in the meeting that Dr. Spear and I kept you from participating in the membership process, and if you had known, you would have done something different. You were at every meeting, you were present for every vote, you advertised the application, and you applied yourself. So to imply that we kept you from doing something and we shut you out is simply untrue. And unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity in the board meeting to state my case, so I'm taking the opportunity to do it publicly now. The SHAC last year was the most transparent and documented it has ever been, and so nothing was done on SHAC without the knowledge of the entire SHAC. That's just the way it was. Everything was incredibly transparent. Additionally, you said that you were shut out from SHAC activities, and the board did not appoint you last year. I wasn't part of that process. I don't know what that was. I don't know what was recommended to them, but you weren't appointed, so therefore you were treated as a non-member, just like anyone else would be. And according to the bylaws, non-members are not on subcommittees, and they're non-voting. There was no special treatment of anyone either way in that case. And so to say you were shut out is simply unfair. And lastly, you stated Mr. Hubert appointed you, our board president, Mr. Hubert, appointed you as district liaison to SHAC, which in our bylaws is called the district coordinator, in January, yet you or Mr. Hubert or none of the board ever made that known to us. So that's odd that that went from January to September without ever being publicly or even privately commented on. So that just doesn't add up to me. my intention here is not to give you or the board or anyone a hard time, but I feel like there were ugly things said about me personally and about the SHAC that were just simply untrue and unrepresentative of the work we put in last year. And I don't understand where that's coming from, but I wanted to share my perspective. And I'm happy to have discussion if anyone has questions or comments, but I think it's important to give everyone an opportunity to say what really happened.
April, I'll comment. I thought last year's SHAC accomplished a lot of things. Cell phone policy, they revised the bylaws. There were a lot of wins last year for SHAC, so for all the people that were there and working hard at that. And, you know, some of the board members, or at least one, admitted that they had not watched or ever attended a SHAC meeting. So they had just heard chatter from other people, but it was very transparent, very open. I thought Dr. Spear did a good job of trying to get everybody's input and say and being neutral. So that's my takeaway.
I'm so happy to bring it way down. Just in regards to that meeting, I did watch that meeting, and just for clarification, bylaws, are they optional? Are they, once they're done and voted on, are they binding? Are they optional? Because I just, in my work, what I do, I would have assumed that they would be pretty binding as a standard of, you know, guidelines for how it's going to operate. I did leave that meeting feeling like, okay, like bylaws don't matter at all, so why have them? So if I can get some clarification on that, that would really help me.
I'm happy to give my 2 cents on that. As Dr. Upshaw stated in the meeting, the board is able to do and make the decisions that they want to make. And so as a SHAC, we don't have that authority to tell the board to do anything. I mean, that's their call, right? And so whether they honor our bylaws or not, that's a choice they have to make. That's not binding on them. Our bylaws, from my understanding, are binding on us as a SHAC. And so my expectation is that we'll continue to honor them as a SHAC, but as far as the board, they're not bound to our bylaws. You need a mic. I don't think so.
Thank you for sharing what you shared. I do want to say that I was incredibly proud of the work that we did as a SHAC last year. I mean, I felt like we worked really hard. It was an open conversation. There was a lot of different opinions on many topics. I was really proud of what we had done and what hopefully we will continue to do. But it was really hard to be the person behind the podium at that meeting because I think the thing that bothered me the most is that it really, to me, felt like an us versus district situation, and that's never been my heart ever. And it didn't feel good to be accused of that, and I was. And some of y'all know me, some of you don't, but I am just like deeply involved in my kids' education, and really am very pro-district, and treasure the people that are working with my kids every day. And so it was really hard to have things I felt hurled at me that weren't reflective of what the SHAC had done, weren't reflective of what I believed. And at the end of the day, we submitted a roster just like all the previous SHACs had done, in a very transparent way. We advertised, we used the same membership form, we just made it electronic, a process that historically had just been submitted to the board and rubber stamped approved, all of a sudden had an hour of everyone's precious time at a board meeting redirected at a conversation which looked to me like it was led because parents were involved. And that might not be the right message to take, but that's how it felt. And so when that's how you feel about a thing, it becomes something that is real. And so, and I realize that it isn't. I understand that this is a really complex situation. But for what it's worth, I just feel like I need to tell you that my heart has always been to work hard and get the work done. And I am proud of what we do, and I look forward to serving again this year in whatever capacity we need. So anyway, I wanted to tell you guys all of that. Anything else? Yes.
Hi, I think this is my 5th year, and I did not have the formal membership form to fill out. I was offered to come and visit, and I stayed put until one of the years they said, if you want to stay, formally say I want to stay. So comparing from last year when Bryce took over, it's been most transparent. I felt like we were all involved. There were a lot of motions, there were a lot of disagreements, and everybody had a say. I felt welcome to that. There were everything that you can say your point across. In the past, it was just more of a presentation and the motion. There was, I don't know if time limitation because it was an afternoon, but I think Bryce's leadership was well done. I did watch the meeting afterwards. I think if we had all agreed as a board, I don't know the technical terminology, and I think the nomination should have came back to us, but membership subcommittee did this. But so I don't know why there was a he and she. A lot of he and she. I think if it came back to the committee and we decided, and the membership committee had taken over, maybe it wouldn't been ill feelings, and I'm really sorry that April felt that way.
Before we move to the next item, I'd just like to publicly say I do apologize for how everything went down. We did a lot of work, and there was a lot of friendships formed, and there's a lot of passion behind what we're doing to make things right. All I can say is I am sorry, and that thank you for the feedback, and we will be there.
Well, last year I was a member of the SHAC, and I could see firsthand that Dr. Bryce did wonderful work. She was open to discussion, all the items that were discussed here, and everybody had a voice. And I also I've been present during the September school board meeting, and really as a member of the SHAC and parent of Conroe ISD, I felt a part the way parents were mistreated at that school board by the president and some other members of the school board. It was shameful. We work from our hearts to protect all the kids from Conroe ISD, and everything was done with a lot of effort to be present here in every meeting. We have to organize a lot of things, so it was very, very hard to be present at that meeting. That's it.
All right. On our next subcommittee update is from the Mental Health Subcommittee. So the Mental Health Subcommittee, every person that has served, if you would like to join in and contribute to the motion of that, or I guess that's not really what I should use, the momentum of the Mental Health Subcommittee. This is a committee that generated the cell phone recommendations to the board. And so we're really proud of those because it really shone or shined a light on a problem that is negatively affecting our students and really was a catalyst for district-wide engagement at all levels, all campuses, parents, students, administrators. And so the mental health subcommittee was formed because a member of our council was affected by a student who had died from suicide in our district. And so the request was brought forward to have a mental health subcommittee to look and see what we could do as a SHAC to be compliant with TEC and also make a significant difference with the students. And so that's really the charge of this, is how do we improve the mental health of our students. So this subcommittee is another one that you can sign up for. Our last big topic was the cell phones. So in starting the next subcommittee session, if you will, we will make a call right now for additional topics concerning student mental health. So anyone who has one of those for ideas, we can work on those. Oh.
The mic thing is almost comical. So I've discovered some books in the CISD libraries, and they're concerning to me because they're talking about, these books were in 5th and 6th grade libraries, intermediate schools, about like a boy being trapped in a girl's body or a girl being trapped in a boy's body, and they are on hormone treatments or puberty blockers, getting shots so things don't grow and develop. And my concern is the mental health of these books. So if the mental health committee could consider looking at this, because these books glorify this behavior and they're not really talking about the irreversible part of it, the damage that can be done. It's more just glorifying it. And, I'm sure we'll have different opinions on this amongst all of us, but again, this is just to make a recommendation to the school board is what the mental health committee would do. I think the mental health committee, Lord knows what they're going to uncover, because the cell phone thing was really enlightening. So if you would consider adding that, that'd be appreciated.
Yes, we will put that on the to-do list. I don't know if this is working. Is this working? Yes? Okay. All right, any other additional topics we would like to put on the mental health subcommittee to-do list?
Could we look at, I don't know how you exactly want to kind of categorize this, but bullying, violence, risk at school, personal safety?
Definitely on the list. Thank you. Any other ones?
I have a question. I don't see this list. Where's this list?
Oh, the list. I'm sorry. Right now we're doing the call for additional topics concerning student mental health.
Right, but if I have an additional topic, where's the list that I would add it to?
Oh, me. I'm writing it down. And
Okay,
then
so the only list is two things long right now.
Yes,
Okay,
sir, that's right.
all right. So,
What is the cell
okay,
phone
all right.
thing?
So I'm looking for something that doesn't exist. So I think to me, this is a topic that's very dear to my heart. I mean, we have students in this district that die because of mental health reasons every year. It's the #1 leading cause of death in this district. You can call it substance abuse. You can call it depression, you can call it a lot of things, but it's mental health. It's dealing with a problem before we get the most giant negative outcome that you can't recover from. And a little bit of my background, it's why I moved out here to the Woodlands. I was moved out here to start a nonprofit specifically to deal with kids in this district that were dying from overdoses, specifically heroin overdoses. That was 8 years ago. I hope that we can come together as a community if this is about health and about the health of our students and the health of our district, and we can really do some work on this, because there is not anything that I'm aware of that students are dying from faster. I know that we die from a lot of things, right? But most of the stuff that we could probably, and this is not to marginalize anybody's topic, but if we want to waste a bunch of time, let's pick a bunch of topics that are controversial and argumentative, and let's get nothing done. But meanwhile, I mean, I've stood in this room while parents talked about their dead kid. And I do not want to be part of a committee that passes this over and chooses to argue and find differences. I hope that we get to be a part of a community that finds that we can cooperate and get some work done, because that to me is a travesty. And I couldn't come to a board meeting next year knowing that we didn't do enough. That's all.
So I don't know if this relates to what you're talking about, but I feel really strongly about anything that we can do to help girls and their confidence. And I was really concerned when I saw the National Merit finalists at the last board meeting, and it was 90% males, predominantly. And I think that's one of my goals as a principal, is to try to encourage girls, not necessarily just in the STEM field, but I'm just saying that most of your National Merit finalists are heading to the STEM field, and I just feel really strongly that we need to do something as far as encouraging girls, and I think it starts when they're little and developing their confidence. So I don't know if that's what you're thinking of or what you're talking about. It's not life and death. I agree with exactly what he said. We need to focus on life and death. But it's just something that I wanted to add, that I feel like that's my role as a school principal, is to encourage little girls. Sure. So, not little boys. I'm not saying, pardon? Yeah. Correct. Correct.
Is also to, like, I think what was it Jesse had mentioned, like the community aspect of it. We do have, and we'll talk a little bit about community events and presentations that we do, but I think, we are advertising this year on our CISD website, as well as we have a CISD guidance and counseling social media pages, but just how do we get the word out to more parents and guardians of our students to help make sure that they are getting the information, however it's beneficial for them. So that's one thing that is on my mind.
I'd like to echo to what Ms. Taylor is saying. We have something that she's going to go over here in a minute. It's called University U, that had about 100 participants last year. And the power and the impact of the parent and the community members that are here today. Last year we had an event that was talking about social media use and so on and so forth. And with the help with just a couple of parents from the SHAC in this room, the event had almost 100 members attend. So I cannot imagine if we were, like Ms. Lindsay has mentioned, if we could help our district in communicating these events and things that Ms. Lindsay will go over by joining on your social media, the guidance and counseling page, so that you can help us share that in our community, because we do want to be able to spread that. And I'm going to go ahead and call on her behalf. We would love for volunteers for this amazing event, and ideas to come out of the mental sub-health committee on how we can make this event better in addressing some of the things that we're sharing tonight.
Any other topics?
I can speak directly to this because Clark Intermediate School has actually introduced this program, but I would love to see something, especially in the elementary ages, for kiddos who are going through divorces, something to support kiddos whose families are going through any kind of a life change, because I can speak for my own children that it's been a game changer for them.
Thank you.
No, you gotta pass the mic.
Kind of going along with what you said with the divorces, something I've thought about. I've just recently started with Project Mentor, which I know is up in we're Caney Creek and Conroe area, but there's outreach for students that are dealing with divorce or dealing with parent has a diagnosis or something like that. Maybe somehow, even if it's not Project Mentor, finding a way to work with those support groups throughout the district, and not just those groups.
Dina Graves. Just a couple of things. Obviously, I know the SHAC is the whole community, not just the students, but the teachers as well. And I think we'd be remiss to not really focus some of that too, because if your teacher's mental health is important, married to a teacher, was a teacher, have kids, obviously. So I think that would be something that I think should be on the table too, is that I think the campus mental health is important, obviously, because you want your people that are helping groom those kids, not groom, that's not the right word, but that's not what I meant. Guide them, sorry, wrong word, to get them, in the right frame of mind. And obviously, as a mom, I was a coach for many years, and I have 2 girls. And obviously, I totally agree with the mental health and getting the girls on the right track. It's a full-time job as a mom and as a teacher and a coach. So I think, thinking about the groups and mentorship with the younger kids, I think is great. That's something that we have really tried to do with athletics. I know all the groups at the high schools want to be engaged with the community and are looking for community service. So I think maybe engaging some of those, not just the athletics, but the other groups, interact, band, choir, orchestra, all those kids that are very engaged, to really reach out to some of those younger kids, I think could be beneficial as well.
Thank you. All right, any other topics? This is great. This is really good. Okay.
Bryce, just one more thing. What happened with the cell phone policy? We recommended, are we implementing? Did something happen? Because we didn't get anything in school as a parent. I definitely saw changes as a parent, but I didn't get a notification. And on just the whole transparency thing, 10 minutes before the meeting, I was notified that CISD did win the bond. So I didn't even know that the bond had passed. Because, so there's like miscommunication. There was a lot of talk about the bond, but then when the bond did pass, there wasn't anything, or I didn't see it in my social media. Plus the cell phone committee, we went to the meeting, the last meeting, I don't know, did we have a board meeting and did we?
Yeah. Yes, we did. I presented the recommendations the SHAC approved to the board. The board requested that the district take this on as a district-wide activity. So the district launched a district-wide committee. It was extensive with lots of meetings and surveys and a lot of work. And I thought I spied Dr. Medford here. I think she actually would be the best person to talk about it. I spy. Yeah,
Right.
nice. Yes, yes.
Oh, I'm gonna hold it. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
gosh, man.
so
Yes,
quietly.
we did, and thank you for serving. You were wonderful. So our committee worked really hard. There was a lot of meetings and a lot of hours. We kept extending the meeting time because it was such good collaboration. But the board did approve both guidelines, the pre-K to 6, and those are in progress. The secondary, it's a little bigger cruise ship to move, so those are they're working through their foundations team to kick that off at semester. It's a lot easier with the bigger kids when they get their new schedules and their new start fresh at semester. So what they're working on right now is that campus-wide communication, making sure teachers, students getting that message out, and then that will start officially after the winter break. But yes, that was passed unanimously by our board. So, and thank everyone who is here that served on it. Oh, yes. They did. Yes, so her question was, she knew they approved pre-K to 6. Did they also approve 7, 8, and 9 through 12? Yes, at the November board meeting that we just had. They were both passed. So lots of discussion if you want to go back and watch. That's the good news about them being online.
Thank you. Another thing we can do, we can just send them out so everybody knows what we recommended and what the subcommittee brought forward.
As a new member, first of all, thank you for welcoming me here. And I was not going to speak, but mental health of our children, of course, and my own particular is important. Of course, physical activity and fitness as well. I feel as though mental health is we know that's so big, and we can touch on all the little things. But where the root problem, and my thing is everyone and every child wants to be seen and doesn't want to feel invisible. And we are such a large district with growing schools and growing numbers and counting that you just don't want your child to feel invisible. And so where's that baseline to help with mental health? Like, what is that ground floor? We know it can be divorce. We know it can, but before there's drugs and alcohol, there's other things. Is it the pressure? Is it from top down that our kids want to be not top 10%, but top 5%, and the goal line just keeps moving. So there's a lot going on there, and I don't know how to, as a parent or even an educator, kind of solve that whole problem. But I think maybe making sure that your student or these students or our children are seen and known by name in such a large group that they're not walking through halls invisible. And so I've always said you can be in a room full of people and still be alone. And so anyway, I don't know how to add that. I don't know how to address that. And I know principals and everything and all our teachers are loving on our kids, but it could take one day of feeling invisible to a child to then start fostering and kind of that spiral to start. So I guess two things, making sure they're seen, and then that just pressure that the goal line keeps moving and it just keeps getting stronger and faster and harder. And that's a world thing, not necessarily a Conroe ISD thing.
Thank you. Okay, Mental Health Subcommittee has a lot of work to do, so I would highly recommend everyone sign up for it because I feel like there's going to be subcommittees on that one. All right, so we have a couple more. We are moving, I think, pretty well. Alternative and supplemental health curriculum. You want to do any updates for that, Mr. Costello?
Yeah, I wasn't prepared to say anything, but I can give you an update about last year. SHAC requires for SHAC, or the state law, whatever, to review the health curriculum annually to make recommendations to the school board. So currently, the school uses Goodhart-Willcox, which they purchased a few years ago, and there's been a subcommittee looking at Goodhart-Willcox and exploring other health curriculums, and so that's what that is about. So they did go through the scope and sequence as part of that committee with Wade, and so there's certainly more work to do.
It is my understanding, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, but that the SBOE just a week or two ago did away with Goodhart-Willcox curriculum. That's correct. Okay, so Goodhart-Willcox is off the table.
Thank you.
Is that for all subjects? I thought it was for science. Do we have clarity on if it's for all subjects? I'm not involved enough to know that part.
We will need to follow up on that, but I do know that the revision, thank you, April, for that, was for the science curriculum textbooks. So I do think it still remains on the recommended list, but we can verify.
For health.
For health, yes, ma'am.
That's what I thought too. Okay.
All right. Physical activity and fitness. Mr. Haymark, any things you want to say?
I have no updates right now, but the Physical Activity and Fitness Subcommittee, last year we had several parents on there, and they brought up some really great ideas for opportunities for us to expand our programs. I think what helps too, all hearing all these great ideas, especially with the Mental Health Subcommittee, I think it'd be very beneficial as when you first meet with some people who can just make a list of what we already have in place, all the things we're already doing. I think that would help kind of get some clarity on what's already in place, and then we can move forward with things we'd like to add. And so we did that in the committee, and there's lots of great questions, and so we went through all the things we have in place for K through 12 on all our campuses, and it kind of helped bring some clarity to the group, and then they were able to move forward some ideas that we could add to these programs. And so those ideas have stayed with us, and we are working on some things for next school year, hopefully, that we'd like to get passed, and so that group, I think, would be a good time to join in and kind of hear what we have in place and what we have planned, and kind of give your feedback as well.
Thank you. Okay, so the subcommittee sign-up process, I feel like it's really glamorous, but it's actually not. You're just going to get a link in your email to the Google document. You just fill it out, hit submit, or whoever's sharing, and we'll get everyone together, and you'll plan your first meetings. There's not a limit on the number of committees that subcommittees you can sign up for. If you want to do them all, please. If you can't commit to the whole year, that's okay too. If you, it's an open process. So if you want to sign up now or say, I can't do it right now, but maybe after Christmas I could get to work. We want the involvement. We want the voice. We're here as community representatives, parents, administrators to really kind of chime in and help shape these major topics that we're required to provide input to by law. So so watch for the link, fill it out, and stay tuned. We'll get all the groups sent back out after, I guess we could leave it open for a couple weeks just to get things going, and then if you change your mind and you don't want to join or you want to just take a break or join something else, that's fine too. Okay? All right. Okay. I am not part of this one, so I'm going to pass over to Ms. Kersey. Oh, actually, no, I missed your slide, Lindsay. Sorry. There we go.
That is okay. If you want, I can just go through. I'm going to give an update on our events that we've done this fall and things coming up in the spring, as well as kind of cover CISD University. So in the fall, we did cover the topics. One of them was Talk Saves Lives, a brief introduction to suicide prevention for our community to attend. In October, we did bullying prevention. We had a speaker from Region 6 come and speak to our community. As well, in October, we had Hidden in Plain Sight Substance Use Awareness and Prevention, which you kind of go through a mock teenage bedroom, have to look for different paraphernalia hidden throughout the room, and then we talk about kind of current drug trends, warning signs, protective factors, risk factors, things like that in regards to substance use. And then actually tonight we have a college readiness for K through 6 that's going to be happening. All of these have been at our JET training facility. And then in the spring we have a lot going on. We have healthy relationships, which the Montgomery County Women's Center is going to come out and present. In January 30th, we have Tessa Stuckey presenting For the Sake of Our Youth. That one is going to be held at the Woodlands High School. We have February 6th For the Sake of Our Youth, again with Tessa Stuckey, which will be at the JET, kind of near the Oak Ridge feeder zone. We also have February 22nd, a webinar with Dr. Crystal Collier on technology shaping the brain for better or worse. We will have flyers, so just kind of be on the lookout on our social media pages for those. And March 2nd, which I'll talk more about here in a minute, is CISD University. March 7th, we're in the works of trying to get a viewing of Screenagers Growing Up in the Digital Age, which will be in person at our JET facility. March 26th, For the Sake of Our Youth, again with Tessa Stuckey, but this time in the Grand Oaks feeder zone. And April 9th is going to be a presentation which covers anxiety, which is through our T-Chat. It's a Texas State telemental health. It was put in through legislature for our students to access telemental health. And so they're going to come and present then. In regards to CISD University, it's going to be held March 2nd, 2024 at our JET facility from 10 to 2. We are going to cover topics. We're in the midst of trying to plan and prep for it. So we have different committees working on topics and presentations. But we do have, for our Parent U, once again, Tessa will be there presenting For the Sake of Our Youth. And then we'll also cover technology and safety with our team and digital citizenship with our Kid U. Other topics that we've talked about too is the self-esteem with our youth as well, and also just fostering, just managing our emotions. And so that's just a little bit about those events coming up. Of course, we're going to share more information as we have the flyers ready, as the event gets closer. And we would love for you to participate and volunteer if you're able to on that day. If not, we would love for you or your family to come out. And we're looking forward to just being able to provide an opportunity to share information with our families.
Thank you for all that. Very busy. All right. The next agenda item is led by April Kersey.
Okay, so the next thing on our list is selecting the SHAC parent, chair, co-chair. Similar to the prior slides, these are the 3 governing documents, so I wanted to highlight what they say about it, and then we'll proceed with the selection process. So Texas Education Code, Board of Trustees shall appoint at least 5 members to SHAC. Majority must be parents with students enrolled in the district and not employees of the district, and then one of those members shall serve as chair or co-chair of the council. Moving on to DSHS, it says the law requires that a parent member serve as the chair or co-chair of the SHAC, and further it goes on to state, in Texas, the chair and or co-chair must be a parent of a student enrolled in the district and cannot be an employee of the school district, and references Texas Education Code 28004. Moving on to our bylaws, based on that information, our bylaws were created. It says CSD SHAC will nominate and vote on SHAC chair and secretary at the first meeting each school year. SHAC co-chair is determined to be needed or wanted. Both co-chair positions must be a parent. And SHAC chair must be a parent and is responsible for ensuring all the duties listed out under parent chair in the bylaws. Unless there's any questions, we'll open up the floor for nominations.
April, I'll nominate Dr. Spear. Just from watching her in action last year, she's an anesthesiologist and a lawyer, and has, okay, nothing to brag about, okay, I got it. So also with multiple kids across the ISD. So I thought you did a good job of getting multiple people's feedback and just making sure everybody was heard. So that's my nomination.
Any other nominations? Okay. With that, do we need to vote to confirm? I guess so. Okay. Let's go ahead and close for nominations. Let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, please raise right hand. Any that opposed, raise your hand. Was that vote? Yes, okay. So no, okay, opposed. Okay, very good. Dr. Spear? All right, we want to go to the next slide.
Thank you, guys. All right, April, you're up. Parent secretary.
Yep. So similar process here. Texas Education Code doesn't specifically note secretary. DSHS, as to say, generally officers include a secretary position. And then again, our bylaws, as noted prior, at the first meeting each year, which is today, we'll nominate and select a secretary. Secretary must be a parent member and is responsible for being the primary record keeper during regular or special SHAC meetings. And again, we'll execute the responsibilities listed in the bylaws for the secretary position. If there's not any questions, we'll open the floor for nominations.
You can self-nominate.
Do you accept the nomination? Okay.
A second on her nomination.
A second. Yeah. Okay. If there's no further nominations, then we'll go ahead and vote to confirm Sam as our secretary for this SHAC year. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? It's probably easier to count. Any opposed, raise your hand, please. Very good. Congrats, Sam.
Great. So the last few agenda items, the request for future, the next one is the request for future agenda items. We need to be, so at present, so this one is a combination item because the future agenda items are always fit in with the scheduled SHAC meetings. And currently we have 3 more meetings for the rest of the academic year. That's not a lot of meetings for all of the work that needs to be done. And so it's not to discourage our future agenda items, it's just to be open to the idea that we probably will have to schedule additional meeting dates. And we can do the Google polls or whatever route of polling you prefer for date and time. I'm happy to incorporate that. But we will probably have to schedule additional meeting dates so that we can get our work done as the subcommittees start generating their output. And they don't all have to be in person. The subcommittee meetings can also be virtual. We prefer our regular meetings to be in person and in this room in particular because these are live streamed, so the community can watch what we're doing. It's available on the CISD YouTube channel, so it just keeps what we're doing really open, and people can weigh in and use the email and all of the routes we have to get community input for what we're doing. So, like we open it up for mental health subcommittee ideas. If there are future agenda items that you want to see, if you want to throw them out right now, I'm happy to write them down. If you want to think about it and email me and Dr. Upshaw, we'll incorporate those too. But just know if you have things heavy on you right now, tell me. We'll add them. And if you can't think of anything, that's okay. It's not like a one and done opportunity to solicit for input. Yes, sir.
So I've seen a lot of presentations and community outreach things about reporting bullying and reporting violence and the encouragement to report cyberbullying and bullying on campus. But we don't really see a lot about what happens after that. And so I don't want to say it is arbitrary and capricious, but what happens when a parent or a child reports bullying? We don't really talk about what they should expect as the response, whether it's from the staff member they're speaking to, the district as a whole, and then also going forward, because I see, Elizabeth Morrison made a recommendation for the mental health committee. One specific thing with regards to her recommendation is how do we handle as a district things like sexual assault on campus or bullying or cyberbullying, and how does that vary from campus to campus? Because as a parent, and talking to other parents who've made complaints, it's really difficult for us to see past the curtain of what happens. And I know that there's there are privacy concerns there. We can't be told what happens to a student or perpetrator, but what should we expect as a parent? And that's something that is really opaque right now to me.
We can put that as an action item. So between now and the next regular meeting, what I think would be appropriate is we get that process back from the district. That will, I'm going to toss this ball over to Dr. Upshaw's court, but we'll get the process that the district does, what it looks like, and get those expectations transparent so everybody understands there's accountability both ways. Because if it is your child and it's affected you, you're right, it doesn't feel very good when you see your child every day suffering from something that you feel like hasn't been addressed. And and the perception of things is often very hard to deal with. I understand that, but
yeah,
absolutely.
And I think one of the things is that I've heard other parents say this is, why would I bother reporting bullying? Nothing's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And and we hear from staff members that I wish you had spoken about this earlier. That comment's made oftentimes, and so I think it's understanding that interplay between the parent and the district. When do you start that process of reporting bullying so that it doesn't become something that's escalates mm-hmm. or turns into something else? And then also, when do the police get involved versus when is it just a district, a staff member or an administrator handling it? And then one of the big things is that I've seen is how does that handle from campus to campus? So when a student's handed off from Mitchell to McCullough or McCullough to the ninth grade campus or the ninth grade campus to the main campus, how does that information follow and track both the victim and the perpetrator so that it doesn't continue and you don't have to repeat the process of reporting again?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you. Any other agenda items that y'all are thinking about? Okay, so we'll move to our next agenda item for today. Closing remarks. You and me?
I just wanted to add, when our meeting was in October, what you have is what we call Conroe ISD swag. Our theme this year was growing, so we had these packets ready. They're the extension of thank you for our teacher leaders that go and present and train our staff. So we had some extra we wanted to give to you, and I just wanted to share with you that's our thank you for serving gift. And there's a couple of things in there. Our feelings are not hurt if you don't want the little name tag ring that has, you know, our little apple on it. But if you do, we just wanted you to have some of that stuff. Now, if there's an extra bag, I won't tell anybody if you take two. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you. My email's on the emails that get sent out, so feel free to email me. You have probably seen my little disclaimer at the bottom of the emails. I work at weird times of the day because I have a lot of children and a lot of things that I do, but I will always try to get back to you. Do not feel obligated to email me back at any time that's not convenient for you. But I just hope that you know that I'm approachable, and if you have any concerns, please let me know. I'm always happy to talk about it or get it the right answer or get it connected, anything like that. All right, anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Best course of action, if we do have an agenda item that we spontaneously think of later, to email you, to email her, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What's best process?
You can email me or her if you send an email for like an agenda item. It's easy if you CC both of us, so one of us catches it timely. And generally, as long as people aren't grouchy if we go too far over time, I'm always happy to add that to the agenda as long as we have some reasonable space that the topic could get the appropriate amount of time to discuss. I'm always happy to add it. And we try to finalize, we finalize the agenda 72 hours before the meeting on Tuesday, so usually by Friday afternoon it's posted on the website. Our goal is to have a preliminary agenda to you that Monday before, so everyone has time to weigh in or add or, you know, whatever. So that's the tentative timeline and the goals we hold ourselves accountable to. Okay? Yeah, no problem. All right. Anything else? That's all. All right. So, can I get a motion to adjourn? Second? All right. This meeting's adjourned 6:06 p.m.